we're going to try to kind of curtail what we were originally going to do. I don't know whether we'll come back to this, but we're going to show a little clip. Well, I produced a video, but it's actually an audio clip from a radio show in the Republic of Ireland, where there is well-known radio journalist called Joe Duffy, and he's interviewing Sandra Higgins of Go Vegan World, and it's about one of the latest billboards where it said a terrified child is dying for your dinner, and you can see the kind of speciesism replete in his attitudes and the people who come after. And it's about 3.5 minutes long. And tell me, everyone.
And when Shay contacted us,
yeah, just tell me if the volume's okay. Yeah.
On his way, yeah. He was plotting his planning his return to school on Monday and the journey, and he discovered these Go Vegan posters on his route, and among others, they say there's one of the sheep being stabbed with a pretty serious kitchen knife in the neck, and the slogan is "A terrified child dying for your dinner." And we Go Vegan, who pay for these ads, said they would come on. They're available now. Sandra Higgins, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Joe.
Who is the child that's dying for your dinner?
Well, most of the animals that we use, particularly as food, are killed at a very young age.
Who is the child that's dying for your dinner?
It's obviously the lamb who's being
killed. The lamb isn't a child.
Oh, the lamb is a child to the mother who gave birth to her.
The lamb isn't a child in the normal meaning of the word. That's what upset me.
You know, it should be standard farm practice to refer to mothers, fathers, sons and daughters.
As the lamb as a child?
Yeah. I always find it interesting, actually, Joe, to hear people, but they're surprised when they hear another animal being described as a child or a mother or a father or a son or a daughter, and yet we've no problem referring to, say, a chick at Easter as a baby chick, or a monkey as a mother or a baby monkey. It's only the species that we use that we find that we have this defense mechanism, and we find it objectionable because it reminds us that what we're doing is wrong. When we eat animal products, when we wear animal clothing, animals who are only a few months old, sometimes a few weeks old, are killed unnecessarily for it. And I think it makes us uncomfortable, and that's why.
Well, it makes you. Well, speak for yourself. You know what I mean? That's I'm not saying whether I'm uncomfortable or not, but you're saying it makes you uncomfortable.
No, it makes the reason that people are defensive about calling another animal a child or a mother is because it reminds them that other animals have relationships the same as we do. They give birth, they look after their children, they have brothers and sisters, they have friends, they have emotions, they have feelings the same as we do. And that makes them uncomfortable when they're reminded that we kill them unnecessarily.
Okay. But you still send over the phrase, this billboard says a terrified child. You say I'm referring to a lamb.
Yeah, yeah. And when we farm them, when we kill them, they have feelings the same as we do. I mean, that's a scientific fact. We're all animals. They're animals. We're animals. We all have a brain and a central nervous system.
And what do you think of people who do eat meat?
Well, so it's not so much what I think of them as I know that they lack information.
But do you think they're child killers?
What I'm saying is that they're not aware of the fact that other animals have feelings and that they don't want to die and that we have no need to kill them. So that the role of our ads is to remind people, because this is something that they generally don't think of. I know I was horrified when I realised it, and I couldn't believe that I had got to this stage.
So what do you think of people who eat children?
It's irrelevant what I think of them. I used to be one of them until just a few years ago. it's a lack of information that people are entitled to.
Peter Whelan is a well-known pig farmer. Peter, you're a child killer.
I'm a cannibal now, Joe, am I?
Well, you talk to Sandra. I'm not getting involved.
So what do we feel? Because I mean, that's kind of speciesism writ large there. And as I put in the comment, there are just some words that we just want to have for ourselves. Murder is one. Persons often, people. You know, there are just some words which we kind of feel as though they can only refer to humans.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, was that you, Nella? No, I was just going to say with child, it does, even when you look up the word child, the first thing it says is a human infant. But I was just thinking about this the other day, actually, and obviously we've been exploring the language of it, and we were wondering whether the use of the word child actually disconnects the public from the message, because it just goes over their head and they don't even make that connection. But I just wondered, is it a similar thing to, for example, if you're saying woman, you wouldn't perhaps call an older cow a woman? As in, does it relate in that way? Because if you say a baby, it kind of makes it a relationship with the mother and baby. But would child be in a similar way to man and woman? As in, I sometimes say about Brian, he's a grown man, and it feels weird because it's like, well, he's not a man, but he's a grown adult. Do you know what I mean? Is it that similar kind of? I
don't think anybody would call a cow of any age a woman, but I do notice that farmers, for example, and I think the general public, they've got no problem about talking about mother cows being mothers. And so it's weird then that the mother's offspring, in other words, their child, is not allowed to have the word child attached to them. It's as though we're just giving too much at that point or something.
I think it's just we use language to reinforce speciesism, and we use language to socialize children in a speciesist world by referring to other animals as calves, for example, or to their flesh as meat or pork or whatever. So we do that with language all the time. And I think there is something very interesting Sandra Higgins said during the interview. She said that the people that object to the use of this language are reminded, in a way, they are reminded of what they are doing. So it's not that they see the billboard, the poster, and they are not affected by it. They obviously are. That's why they react. So I wanted to ask Maria, what kinds of mechanisms are there when you see a poster like that with the lamb and the knife, and you realize that a child is dying for your dinner? How can you deal with that and not go back home?
Marie, you can abandon your PhD now and do a new one on just on this radio interview, I would say.
Well, to be quite honest with you, it is quite interesting because it is similar with what Nella said. I don't know if I will pronounce it well. We know that with meat is euphemistic language that they use, so they try to take the meaning away. So instead of saying an animal or a dead body, they say meat, because they try to take away the whole meaning of what is really happening. And we can see that this practice, it's similar with the sociologist Bandura, that he has to do with moral disengagement. And it goes way back from people being killed for many years. So people still use language to take away the meaning. But because I'm not a sociologist, I will only speak about psychological facts, and I can leave Roger to do that. In terms of the psychological effects, what happened, I'm not 100% sure what psychological defense mechanism used in this example, because, well, someone needs to either be shocked from what he or she heard. So they can, when they see the word children, they either can be very angry, they can neglect the word, they can feel that they are only entitled due to their superiority, that they can only use this certain word, which again, superiority is linked with speciesism. But in terms of many different psychological defense mechanisms people use, the most similar could be possibly denial. So what has been also found in studies is that in order for people to deal with the cognitive dissonance they experience, which is about two contradictory beliefs, I love animals, but I eat them, just to make a point in here that doesn't apply to all people. There are some people that they never feel bothered or annoyed, so they never go through cognitive dissonance. So when they go through the cognitive dissonance and feel discomfort from what they do, which is a moral discomfort that is occurring, they have two options. So the first option is to either change their behavior and go vegan and not feel the discomfort from their actions, or change their beliefs and perceptions about the behavior. And the best way is to use psychological defense mechanism. So, for example, people deny that animals have the capacity to suffer, or deny that they have individuality and they have rights. And with denial, that is the most powerful mechanism. If you deny, then there is no problem. The problem still remains invisible, because if I feel bad that a pig is suffering, if I say to myself, well, you know what, the pig isn't suffering, so if it's not suffering, the action is not morally problematic, then I deny the truth, and then there is no problem in here. So I can easily deal with my behavior, continue use animals, eat animals, exploit animals, and be part of this behavior. While again with avoidance, that it's also very similar with denial, and both of them, they are very powerful mechanisms. People, they really avoid to know the truth. So with the billboard, that could be an example. Even unconsciously, people might want to know the truth of what is really happening. So, for example, many people in activism, they've seen that, when you want to speak with someone, they say, I don't want to know, please don't let me know, I don't want to be informed, I really don't want to know. And they practically embed the approach of look the other way. So if you, again, don't really acknowledge the problem, then there is no problem. Then again, with dissociation, we have to, in a way, blame society, because they know how strong is when you really link and make the connection with the animal and the food. And then for this reason, for all the society, they try to take away from the packaging. Let's go and see how they do the packaging of meat. So when an animal is when the meat or the food is resemble the animal that used to be, people getting shocked. So the whole dissociation is that they try to dissociate, not knowing, so they can have the illusion and they can enjoy their hamburger without really knowing that an animal is being served into their plate. Then we have justification, which tons of activists and tons of people, they deal every day with justification. So it is a bit similar with rationalization, but is different. So with justification, they can use tons of excuses, actually. Like, it is very healthy. It is similar, again, with the horse, the example of the horse. With justification, they can say, yeah, but that's very good for us. We want to be close. Horses want to be right, and they really enjoy that. So, or either they use justification like, it is normal, we ate meat forever, we are evolved to eat meat. So they're bringing rational answers to justify their behavior. But again, with justification, you can see that if in a way you trigger them, that's why they will want to justify their behavior. If you never say anything about their behavior, or if they don't acknowledge their behavior without wanting to admit their behavior, they will not use justification. So in a table with only meat eaters, if they eat animals, they will not justify their behavior. They will only justify their behavior when they know it is wrong. So as I've said, we have tons of justifications available out there. You can pick which one you want, and then tons of people, I'm sure that they deal with justification every day that really makes them so angry. And then we have dichotomization, where people, they dichotomize animals, which is similar with categorization, but it's only two actual categories. So they dichotomize pets from wild animals, farm animals, and in this way they just feel that it's completely different. And then the most not very common ones, it's the objectification. It is similar with Carol Adams and, sexual objects and how they objectify bodies. They they objectify the body of an animal. So if it is as an object, then there is no problem. And the most important justification for me, which is not exactly a defense mechanism, but it's something that society allows us to do, is the individualization. So we don't see animals as individuals. And I think that's where activism needs to come in and really, in a way, try to acknowledge that animals are individuals. So people who use animals or exploit animals, they are not always the worst people. And to be quite honest with you, many slaughterhouse workers, without saying you should have empathy for all of them, they have to de-individualize the animals in order to continue to do their job. So it's not that all the people who eat meat out there or who use animals, they are bad. There are many different mechanisms behind that most of them, they might not even be aware of using them. They might be conscious, they might be completely unconscious. So there are many different psychological defenses that if you really think, we use them to feel better. And I think that's the most strong point.
Maria, can I ask you a point on that, actually, on cognitive dissonance? Because I think it's used a lot in activism and advocacy, in that people will say to the public and say to non-vegans, you're in cognitive dissonance because you're holding to opposing beliefs. You say that you love animals, but you also still eat them, use them, wear them, all of that. Actually, one thing you said there is that unless people see that it's wrong, they're not in cognitive dissonance. And the way I understood it when I was kind of looking more into this is that cognitive dissonance is not automatic. I think this is what you were kind of saying as well, when a person holds opposing beliefs, because they must have an awareness of the inconsistency in order to feel the discomfort. But what got me thinking is that actually people have to actually see that their beliefs are opposing. Whereas if you've been socialized to a point where you see things are normal and society tells you this is normal, and we've got a deeply embedded speciesism, that actually people don't see that as opposing beliefs. They don't see that eating a pig is an opposing belief to having a pet dog, because they see that as totally different beliefs. It's like their beliefs are it's okay to eat a pig, and it's normal to have a pet dog. So they're their beliefs. For that person, that's not an opposing belief. So therefore, there isn't any discomfort around that, which is why people seem to be able to behave in that way. Does that make sense? Have I got that right in any way?
It makes sense, and I agree. And even until today, it hasn't been scientifically proved that there is cognitive dissonance, but they also took the meat paradox, so they're the two opposed beliefs, and believe that when people deal with the moral discomfort, which is a cure from the two inconsistent beliefs, that's where psychological defense mechanisms come in and play. So you can either see them as psychological defense mechanisms or as cognitive dissonance strategies. To me, the point is that even if you realize your cognitive dissonance, you still need to be confronted. So if no one ever tells you anything, and if you don't really be aware of what is really happening, then you don't use them in the first place. So for me, there must be a stimulus that will make you realize that, oh, hold on, what is really happening? Is this a pig? Is this baby actually feeling pain? And if so, then they start to justify and rationalize and deny what is happening to take completely away them. Because we haven't really observed how, for example, meat eaters, they experience this dissonance. We don't know if they go home and feel that they experience discomfort. We don't know if they feel sad. We know that, and we can see that from activists as well. And actually, I can exclude activists for a second. I will briefly say to you a very quick experiment. So they've categorized people in two different conditions. Both groups that they took part in the study, they were eating beef, otherwise cow, but I'm just telling how the study was set up. And they were in the experimental condition that the people, they will eat either cashew nuts, and in the other condition, they will eat actual beef. But in both conditions, people were eating meat. But in one condition, it was only nuts, the other was it was only beef. And after that, they've asked them to rate the moral standing of cows and whether they believe that cows can experience pain or if they are, capable in autonomous rights. People that they were on the caseous condition, they attribute more status to cows than people who were in the beef condition. So that really shows us that even when they are both in the same pattern, they eat animals, depending on where they are and the condition they are, they try to justify their behavior by denying in one condition that they can experience pain, similarly to the other. So we don't quite know, well, at least I don't know whether it's conscious or unconscious, but people use them without sometimes understanding them. And of course they are influenced by society as well, because we know that it's normal, we know that it's natural, we know that we're doing this for a year, and there is no reason of actually, saying why not. We're doing that. Our ancestors used to do it. There is no problem doing it. But once you see that the problem is morally problematic, then you either change it or you bring the psychological defense mechanism. Because if you ask anyone, would you harm a pig? They will say no. So those are the consistent beliefs that they pay someone else to harm the animal so they can eat the animal. But in the first instance, they will never say yes. Most of the times, they will never say, I want to harm the animal to eat the animal.
So it's that disassociation, isn't it? They manage to, someone else does it so that they can be disassociated and distance from that act, from the other animal themselves, and also from the process that the other animal has to go through to become the product, the meat or the shoes or the handbag or whatever it might be. They're totally disassociated with that.
The only lacking thing in this area is that we mostly focus on the food, and we know less about leather, how they use them, use animals in other content. But even if many meat eaters in the past, if they order a red steak and they see a lot of blood, a lot of them, they will feel disgusted. The reason why they will feel disgusted is because disgust is a moral emotion, and they link that with blood. So you see, again, if you observe from different studies, that when they see something that resembles the animals or blood, the dissociation is lower, while when they see the hamburger, the dissociation is higher. So society has managed to achieve dissociation in any way, either for language or the way that they present the use of animals with food, entertainment, clothing, anything.